disappointed he won't admit it. Right? We have to fine, like you're not. These kids can be way better with some instructions. Now they're gonna get
All right, good evening, everybody. At this time, would you all please rise if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, they must have just did the floor. It's so slippery. All right, good evening. All right, at this time, we will open the first hearing and privilege of the floor. If anyone would like to address the board, please just state your name, address, and try to follow our 5-minute board policy. Okay, we will close the first hearing and privilege of the floor. Remind everybody that we will have a second at the end of the meeting. We'll now move on to Superintendent Short's comments.
Thank you. So just want to share with folks about some events I've had the good fortune to be part of in the last few days. So last Thursday was our first home unified game. As you recall, this is athletic contest for our children with disabilities who are on teams with our typical kids. We played Amsterdam. Ms. Hoffman and I sat together with Mr. Bednar, and I have to say it was a very exciting game. We lost by 2, but there are 2 home games this week, one tomorrow at 4:30, one Thursday at 4:30. If you can get to a unified game, I would encourage anybody who's able to do that. They are just the most uplifting opportunities to watch. On Saturday, I stopped by the Scholastic Book Fair, which this year the librarians had decided to do things a little differently. So they had one giant book fair at the high school outside the main gym in the back of the building. I was there about noon. I could not get over the number of people, and they told me that there had actually been people waiting to get in at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning.
Because I was there, it was packed. I was there right at the start, and it filled quickly.
It was incredible. I could not get over how well organized it was, what a great job they were doing, how many people were there, how many children were picking out books. It was just an incredible opportunity for kids. And although the book fairs in the schools have always been very nice, because all of the libraries were represented, they had everything from preschool books to high school age books, fiction, nonfiction. Was really, really well done. Incredible job. And I think as Liz Fawcett, the department chairperson for our librarians, said to me, we're going to do it this way all the time. And it was great. They'd also had a staff, if you will, a special time for staff on Friday for the book fair, and had a really great turnout there. So I'm very, very pleased with this little something different that we did. And then finally, Mr. Giaquinto and I, and then we ran into Mr. Talbot, walked over to the girls' softball game this afternoon. Our girls were playing in honor of a mom who's a breast cancer survivor, so our team was in pink. It was the Pink Out softball game. It was amazing. And our kids were raising money for the fight against breast cancer. Really a great opportunity, and again, just our kids showing what good community-minded people they are. So lots of great stuff going on here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Now I have an accountability update by Assistant Superintendent Karen Swain.
Karen, can I do anything to help you? I think we're good. Thanks, Scott.
I'll move past you. I know it is slippery tonight.
So we have not had the opportunity to talk about accountability in 3 years, mostly because accountability has been frozen for several years. So in the 2021 school year, accountability was frozen. So really, we only had a year, maybe a year and a half under the new accountability system. So before ESSA was NCLB, you probably remember the 2 + 3 + 4 + 3 + 4, that odd little calculation that they used under NCLB. So the feedback folks got after NCLB was, what about absenteeism? It matters. If you're not here for instruction, how are you holding us accountable for the instruction? And so they said, what about science and social studies under NCLB? Science was barely used as a thing called safe harbor. And so state ed listened in the way that state ed often does, in a way that provided more of a, I want to pick my right word here, not as much as a relief as a different accountability measure, and they set a different target that makes it a little harder for us instead of a little bit easier. So they heard us, but they decided how they implemented what they heard. So we're going to talk a little bit now about the multiple measures that are used. So we used to have just ELA and math, and now student academic achievement is for ELA math and at the elementary middle level science, and for high school it's also social studies. Student growth was something that was missing from our old accountability formula, so they put in student growth. Academic progress is new, and you'll see that little note up there, that measure of interim progress, a MIP. So we're going to talk about MIPS in several categories tonight. A measure of interim progress was set based on 17-18 scores. They made a goal starting in 18-19 going out until 22-23, our current school year. So they set what they called reasonable goals, measures of interim progress, and then they chunked that for us. So we have different indicators that use MIPS. So you've got academic, which is results-oriented, the achievement. You've got growth, which uses those results compared across years from like student groups. You've got academic progress, which takes results, puts in a bit of a blender, and then gives you your MIPS. Graduation rate also uses a MIP, that goal, that measure of interim progress. English language proficiency we are not accountable for, but it is in the state's formula. Chronic absenteeism also uses a MIP and a long-range goal. So chronic absenteeism is designated as 10% of your enrollment. So if you are enrolled with us for 10 days, and you miss 2 days, you're missing more than 90% of your academic time with us, so you're considered chronically absent, and that you'll see translates into a score of a 1 versus a 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll get there, that'll make a bit more sense. Again, chronic absenteeism is a MIP, and then we've got college, career, and civic readiness. That looks across different indicators about how ready you are to leave school and be college, career, and civic ready. And again, that's also a MIP. So we're going to talk a little bit more about MIPS. So if you notice that tiny little note on the bottom, and this is a slide straight from state ed, you'll see that they're talking about bringing in school suspension rates. So we have been sending up suspension rate data for 2 years, and that will be, this is an older slide, because they said they were going to bring it in 2021. If you remember, they held accountability frozen in 2021. And so that will be coming, we're hearing next year that there will be an additional indicator that will be student suspension rates. So we're a long way from 2 + 3 + 4 + 3 + 4. So we are still held to the accountability of those 10 different subgroups, that one group being our all-student group, and then it breaks it down by race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, students with disabilities. But these are the same that they've always been. One thing that is new for subgroup accountability is that students, it used to be student count in these subgroups, whether or not you had results, but because of the different measures that are used now, it's results driven instead of enrollment driven. So that is a change for us. So what you'll see is we are held accountable for those 10 subgroups if we have 30 or more students in that subgroup. And what happens now is if there's less than 30 students in that subgroup and their results, so think about a 4th or an 8th grade student, you've got an ELA, a math, and a science. You've got 3 results for one student. So you need 30 or more results. Say you don't have quite enough, they'll go back a school year and they'll take the results from that student for 2 years. So that 8th grade student would then be in current year accountability with 5 scores. 2 ELA and maths, so that's really 4, and then a science. So that we have 5 results for one student across 2 years. So what we're finding under this accountability the way they're looking at accountability is that we're accountable for more subgroups than we were before, because each student over 2 years can be accountable for 5 results. There will be a quiz when we're done. And please stop me anytime. I know that accountability is a pretty deep subject. That's a little trickier than it used to be. So how schools are measured on each indicator. So we talked about MIPS, we talked about growth, and we talked about achievement. We talked about civic readiness. So they're all those measures, they're kind of put in a blender. And then what comes out on the other side is a number, 1, 2, 3, 4. It follows to reason. 1 is the lowest, 4 is the highest. We're given a score for our all student groups, and then they also do it for each student subgroup if we have 30 or more results in that subgroup. This is one of my most favorite slides. Here's the blender. So this is what they do. They take all these different composite performance index, they stack up schools, and they put different cut points in by percentages, by decimals, less than, more than, lowest, between. They're all a little bit different. So they're taking the same data set and they're slicing it in several different ways to have a more robust look at school accountability. You'll notice on your bottom right, academic progress, graduation rate, chronic absenteeism, and college and career readiness, they have those MIPS. So it's whether or not we met our MIPS. And then there's averaged MIPS across the state that we can meet in order to get a different level. And then there's a long-term goal that's set that we can also get leveled out points 3 or 4 if we meet the higher of the MIPS or the state MIP. So what happens with all these levels? You put it into another chart. So, I know. So the chart on the top is the high school. This is your scenario table. There's 7 different scenarios for high school. There's 6 for elementary and middle, and that's because high school has the graduation rate where they put in that other scenario. So that's how they level it out. So this year, in 22-23 accountability, they only looked at scenario 1. What they'll do moving forward is that they will use all scenarios at the restart of accountability, which will be based on this year's data. And then what they'll do is they'll rank all the schools, they'll flip it upside down, starting with the lowest, and they'll rank them. And then they will take 5% of those schools and turn them into CSIs, which is Comprehensive Support and Improvement Schools. All right, so how does all of that affect us? We're gonna take a bit of a look back. 17-18, the blue highlight was the old NCLB, 2 + 3 + 4 + 3 + 4. The first year of new accountability, GS is good standing, which means all is well in the world. We've made all our MIPS, we've hit all our targets, our composite index is above 45%, all the levels are where they need to be. But what you'll see in yellow for that top table is that we were looked at as a potential TSI and a potential TD. So those are targeted support and intervention at the school level and a target district at the district level. So what happens is, if a school receives a label, the district gets a supporting label, because to State Ed's credit, they realize that a student's performance isn't based on a single school, right? It really is that village mentality that we all hand off students, their supports, their challenges to each other, and they say, if one school is struggling with a certain subgroup, and in our case it was Hispanic in the area of ELA and math at the middle school, then the district has a responsibility to support. So in 18-19, we were potential TSI and TD in the area of Hispanic. The table at the bottom, again, you see 18-19 was our old accountability status, and in 19-20, we were identified as a target district and the middle school for targeted support and intervention in the area of Hispanic students in ELA and math. So interestingly, we in 3 years did not have 15 students of Hispanic descent in the middle school at one time. So that goes back to that piece where one student can count as 5 data points, 5 results to get to that number of 30. So it's just a piece of context. You'll also see that in the 1920 school year, Lincoln Elementary School was a potential TSI for students with disabilities in the areas of ELA and math. So then we hit pause for 2 years. So then we didn't have state testing, so we held on to that accountability status until the current school year, 23-24. So where are we now? Ta-da! they made a new name. There's no longer Good Standing. Good Standing, the new Good Standing is Local Support and Improvement, so you'll see LSI. So it is with great kudos to the middle school, to the district, that we came out of accountability status of TSI, and we are in good standing in all of our schools, including the district, with no potential TSIs or potential districts, because the district, it's a long story. The district can also get an accountability status even without the school, which is a process we're not going to dive into tonight. But as you can see across the board for the 22-23, we are LSI, which means we are formally known as Good Standing. So kudos to the middle school especially. They really did an absolutely outstanding job. They spent those years where there wasn't accountability making plans for their students. So they looked at data. They made a plan based on that data. They implemented it. They monitored it. They checked it again. They made tweaks. And they went back in this incredible iterative process where they looked at not just academics, but that sense of belonging. So you look at the activity period at grade 6 this year. We knew that that transition year was going to be super tough. And so part of that mechanical structural change came out of the SEP. Reworking staffing, reworking the schedule to have an activity period where there is a certified adult in every classroom with every student. Just there for what do you need? Go see this teacher because they're free. Come see me because I'm free and you're free. So really, I can't say enough about the work, the time, effort, energy that the entire middle school put into being in good standing. No one will say thank you when you ask them what a learning target is, but we, K-12, went through the DSIP that you've seen for several years. Part of that district comprehensive improvement plan was vertical K-12 layered professional development for administrators and teachers in the areas of learning target and success criteria. Embedded coaching. I'm ahead of myself. I have a slide about this. So I'm talking to you mostly about the celebrations because they're my favorite part. So really, we have common language and common expectations, and it layers also into our Danielson rubric, domain 2 and 3, about setting expectations and formative assessment in the classroom. So again, I can't say enough about the middle school. Top to bottom, they've done a beautiful job. But there's some challenges to this, right? Like, it isn't all unicorns and rainbows. Part of the release of accountability for those 2 years was the introduction of exemptions because we didn't have Regents exams. So what happened was exemptions don't count in our participation rate because the student didn't participate. So right now we have a 36% participation rate for English in the last year's cohort. You need a 95% to be on that 1, 2, 3, 4 list, to be up in the 4s. We are not going to make our participation rate, and you need 2 years of not making it, but the impact of those exemptions will be felt in future years. So we are going back through all of our data to make sure that all of our exemptions are the correct exemptions, and there was a time where students can pick if an exemption or the score goes up. So if you're a kid, and you're in 11th grade and someone says, it's the middle of COVID, are you gonna sit for the exam or are you gonna take the exemption? And hey, it will still count towards your diploma. Most kids said, I'm not ready for this. So we're gonna feel the impact of those exemptions. Susan and I were talking about this. We're making the assumption for at least 3 more years, just as students go out, because the graduation rate and the participation rate is 4, 5, and 6 years out. So 36% is a long way from 95%. But those were the options we were given. Accountability was frozen, and the impact wasn't understood at the time of the decision. But that will be a challenge for us moving forward with school accountability. That chronic absenteeism rate of 10% is a real challenge. When the flu comes through, when the stomach bug comes through, if you get hit with the flu twice or the stomach bug twice in your family, you're dangerously close to 10% of your school year out. So really, we are taking a really close look. The high school is undergoing an attendance audit this summer with Attendance Works and Laura McDaniel to look at what are the 3 steps we take, what do we do when this doesn't happen, and what are we doing for those kids who are truly and honestly chronically absent. So the high school is starting us off. That plan will be submitted to Susan and will come to the board for what the plan will be, and then it will be monitored. One of the lovely things about being on a list, which sounds funny, is that there is $125,000 annually that comes along with it to put in place these initiatives. We spent that on embedded coaching at all levels. We focused in year 1 on middle school and high school, and then in year 2 and 3, we brought it down to elementary, kept it at the same level, but brought in more. That's the work we did with tangible development, mostly because that Hispanic subgroup was part of what got our designation, so we needed to bring a plan in there. So sustaining those initiatives that were successful from a funding perspective is certainly a challenge. And the work continues. We're not done. This is an iterative, continuous growth model. So we've got our DEI initiative, our continued partnership with tangible development, the embedded coaching. We found a way, thank you, Drew. We found a way to make that work for at least next year. And then we will continue on with our partnership with BOCES for our layered district-wide professional development. That's a lot of information. If you need time to process, if you have questions. Well, if you see middle school staff, please give them a high five. How about that?
Let's give them a round of applause, actually.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Nice job, Kate.
Beautiful. If no other questions, we'll move on. If I can get a motion for resolutions number 7, 8, and 9. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped 6. Well, I didn't want to go to 6 because CAPSPA, but we'll go to 6. Thank you, sorry.
What's new with CAPSPA?
More gray hairs right here. All right, so reports and updates. Sorry, thanks, Pam. CAPSPA, so now that school board budget season is over, I've had many emails with other boards and several today with Kathy Lewis. We have the bylaws from what CAPSPA was. We are still waiting on getting the accounting information to see what money is in the account, so there can be future events that are planned. I have a good correspondence and representation from most of the school districts around here. A couple of them said that they're doing their other thing with either Adirondack or Saratoga. Bless you. My last email this afternoon before I came was with Kathy, that her and I will try to plan a conversation at some time towards the end of the week, along with some of the other boards, and see if we can get this going relatively soon.
Making good progress, Mr. Talbot.
Budget season slowed us down. Some of the other districts around us weren't as fortunate to get through ours quickly, I guess I could say. Some of them took a little bit longer, so thank you. Mr. Frederick, legislative liaison.
So the state passed its budget last Tuesday, both houses, the Assembly and the House, and it was signed by the governor on Wednesday. So that was kind of a big thing. It was, a little bit over a month or so late, but NISBA actually had their governance committee review the budget, and there is a link out there. They did some analysis on that. So if anybody's interested, let me know. That's the biggest legislative move that goes out there.
Very well. Thank you. Kim, PTA?
PTA Council has moved their meeting till next Monday. That is at 6 p.m. And the update, I did just check my notes. They are looking for a president and a vice president to take over for PTA Council. So if anybody is interested in being president or vice president of PTA Council, they're looking. And that's all I have until next Monday's session.
Beautiful. Thank you. Audit committee.
The audit, the annual risk assessment, and a Medicaid audit, and also discuss some topics for next year.
Policy. Ma'am, Rick?
We have, we met week before last and we went through all the 6,000. So we are now starting to get 17,000.
and awaiting your answers from me on 5s and 6s, which we should have for you in the next day or so.
Thank you.
Board of Education goals, obviously communication still is one that we're still working on. One of our goals obviously was an accurate and on-time evaluation for Superintendent Schwartz, which she mentioned to us all in our update from last week, which we're still working on that. Anyone have anything else on the goals that we had set? All right. Budget-wise, vote next Tuesday, 7 a.m., 9 p.m. for the budget, school bus prop, and Board of Education seats. All right, now that I jumped ahead, let's go back. So now I will ask for a motion, on resolutions 7, 8, and 9.
Seven, 8, and 9 together?
Yeah, we can, since they're all resolutions are similar for accepting gifts.
Okay. I make a motion that we accept an appropriate gift and donation for various high school award scholarships, award the electrical contract for Glen Warden Elementary School electrical service upgrade, and to accept and appropriate the gift and donation from Glendale Elementary School PTA, all as submitted.
Thank you. Second?
Should those really be lumped together? Am I
Yeah,
reading that?
that's why I was asking.
Because 8 is more of a contract,
Yeah.
not a donation.
We can do them individually?
I mean, we could do like
That's fine.
8, we could do
7, 9.
7, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I questioned it.
It's fine. We can do that.
And then I made it.
However we would like to do it.
You can motion to approve resolutions. You don't have to separate them at all. Just, you can even include 10 if you'd like. So it's just that we accept the resolutions.
Right. That's why I kept 10 separate, because that had to do with workers' comp more than the others.
I'll second the motion to approve the resolutions.
Thank you. So 7, 8, and 9. Thank you. Questions or comments? Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Or abstain?
I abstain on number 7.
Abstains on item number 7. Thank you. So moved. A motion for resolution number 10, please.
I'll move that we accept and appropriate funds from the Scotia Area Workers' Compensation Consortium as written.
I'll second.
Thank you both. Does anyone have any questions or comments? No. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Thank you. So moved. Motion for item number 11, to request an overnight field trip for the Senior Class Spanish Club to Puerto Rico.
I'll motion to approve the request for overnight field trip to Puerto Rico as submitted.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you both. Anyone have questions or comments?
Can we volunteer as chaperones?
Arranged financially for anyone who cannot afford the money?
Yes, ma'am. You know, that's my always song and dance.
Wanted to have it said officially?
Thank you, Pam. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. I get a motion for item number 12 to appoint additional poll clerks and inspectors for the district election.
A motion to accept the appointment of additional poll clerks and inspectors for the annual district election.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Emily. Anyone have any questions, comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Motion on communications.
I'll move with communications A through G, staffing 1 through 8, placement of students with disabilities, and the minutes for the meetings of April 3rd and April 19th as submitted.
I'll second.
Thank you both. Questions? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Treasurer's reports. February 23, March 23. Anyone have any questions for Drew? All right, so moved. Other business?
Just want to remind folks to be prepared on June 12th for our board meeting at 5 p.m. with a light dinner with our attorney for board training.
Will that be at the district office or in here?
Probably here in,
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any other business?
You know, I do have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Does the high school ever have like a career fair?
we typically have done one that's held at Schenectady Community College, although I don't believe it took place this year, but it is, we have not, I don't believe, personally hosted.
We had one at home, put one on for senior groups, 1 year. That was pretty big. They brought in a lot of people. They did the club fair in the fall this year. And then some of the different classes have different people come in, like in econ, they have speakers come in, then different places.
Got it. Yeah, because there was a pretty big one over like Thursday, Friday in Schenectady that I participated in. And then there's ongoing ones all through, not only the elementary schools and middle, but the high school all this whole month. It would be pretty cool to be able to have, like that one that Friday, there was like probably 40 or 50 different agencies there to tell kids all about, everything. So, like National Grid brought cranes. I brought a fire truck because that's what I do. But it was really cool. So, I mean, it'd be great to look into something like that.
That was at Schenectady, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions about, we were talking about bringing in the trades and doing stuff, and some of the people who own trades are like, do you guys do a career fair? Do you guys have something, for especially for like 11th grade or 12th graders, how we have the colleges come in? Is it possible for like the trades to come in? I didn't know if that went through the guidance. I was going to send an email. If that goes to the guidance department, or is that something that like a PTA council would have to work on? Having them come in just to be able to talk to the students about, would they like to go into construction? Do they want to be an electrician? Do they want to be a police officer? How would that work? Is that something that we could look at for next school year for maybe our juniors, and especially our juniors?
Absolutely. We could absolutely look at that, yes. And as I think I wrote to you in the update, I was fortunate to attend the CTE signing day, where students who are graduating from career and tech ed programs in June are actually already signed on with employers for gainful employment. It's pretty impressive. That was amazing, the number of people there.
We do actually participate in the construction work fair. The guidance takes a bus, okay, and there is a construction work fair for all those trades. Kids can sign up for that, as long as they've done that almost every year.
Oh, okay. And that's something that you get a lot of students to sign up for, or?
They fill the bus.
That's awesome.
But yes, we could certainly talk about a career fair.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else, other business? If not, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Thank you. A second?
Can we do the other hearing privilege to the floor? Just
We could.
that's on the books?
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
jump the gun.
Well, I looked and no one yelled at me this time, so we'll open up the second hearing of privilege of the floor, if anyone would like to address the board.
Sassy.
All right, we'll close the hearing of privilege of the floor. Now ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Kim. Second. Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.